You could definitely make a joke about this, like, I promise it's bigger when it's far away. Is that inappropriate? It's true. It's bigger when things are far away. All right, welcome back to the channel. I'm Scott with Techno Eclipse. Today we're going to talk about the GH5, but first I want to run this intro and I hope it doesn't cut me off. The GH5 is over 2 years old at this point. I have owned this camera for 1 year, 3 months, 4 days, 8 hours, and 27, 28, 29 seconds. So obviously I'm a big fan of this camera. No, I have owned it for just over a year, maybe just under a year and a half, somewhere between there. I got it October of 2018. I have used this camera, not every single day, but probably out of the last 450, 500 days, I probably used it 400 of them. I love shooting, I love taking videos, I just love doing stuff with video. I never thought I would, but it turns out I have a lot of fun doing it. So that's why I continue to make these videos, and that's why I love cameras. So this camera has been through a lot with me. I bought it when I had 300 subscribers, and I now have 124 or 31 or something like that. I have a lot more, and this camera has been with me on every step of the way. I've made a lot of client videos with this. I've worked with a lot of my friends on a lot of really fun projects. We actually have another project that we're gonna be working on that I'm really excited about. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. And this camera has been with me through everything. There are so many things I love about this camera. Honestly, this video is probably gonna be more of a love letter. I will tell you the few things I don't like about it, but if you just wanna hear how great this camera is because you just bought one or you own one, this is the video for you. So, first thing I like so much about this camera is probably the battery life and the batteries. So I currently have in this camera one of my knockoffs. So I have a Wasabi Power battery, and I have 2 knockoffs and 1 real battery. The knockoffs work really fine. I have not noticed a difference between the knockoffs and the non-knockoffs. They've never stopped me from filming, and they're cheap. I have 3 batteries that came with the camera. I bought this thing for originally, I think, $24.97 when I first bought it, with a couple extra batteries, an SD card, the lens, and the camera body. Now, I don't suggest anybody spend that much money unless you can. Don't buy it on credit unless you're running a business, but even then, I would say just save up money if you're running a business, because there's no reason to go into debt. I've made a bunch of videos about that. They'll be linked down below or linked up here. But this camera has been an absolute joy to use. The first thing, other than battery life, that I love so much about this camera is probably that it takes SD cards. It is wonderful how a simple SD card is all you need to start shooting. Now, I do kind of wish you could maybe use a different type of form of media with this camera, but I'm not upset because I have a bunch of SD cards, so it works really well for me. I think that's gonna be the theme of this, where it's really good for sort of like the mid-level to low-level filmmakers, filmmakers, and videographers. I'm an idiot. And I have so many great things to say about it, but I do think that that's sort of where this sits. The next most favorite thing about this camera is the codec that it shoots in. This is a micro four thirds sensor, which means that it's a little bit smaller than your average everyday full frame camera, like what I'm shooting on now, my fiance's 5D Mark III. And don't you dare say you like this video better on this camera, because I love this camera so much, and I'll cry if you say that. Panasonic obviously makes great cameras, they have for years, and I never thought I would be buying a camera from them because they make TVs in my head, but they've made such a great camera here. They've knocked it out of the park. The sensor size is great. The codecs that you could shoot in, I sort of sidetracked. I just get so excited about this camera. They're awesome. You can shoot 4K 10-bit internal recording onto an SD card, which is insane. I've been using the same SD card for almost a year and a half now. I wondered the day it's going to break and I'll just buy a new one, but it's wonderful, it's lovely, it's amazing, it's bountiful. I'm just gonna go through my ABCs of how great this camera is, but it's great. I love it. The codecs are awesome. You can shoot 180 frames per second on 1080p, which is insane. I normally never shoot more than 120. I find 180 is a little aggressive. I will shoot 180 sometimes though if I'm outside shooting. I need some slow-mo and I really need to crank the shutter and I have to darken it a little bit, so I will shoot 180 occasionally, but primarily I shoot either 4K at 60, 4K at 24 frames per second, or 1080p at 120. I use pretty much those 3 codecs when I'm shooting with this camera. My next favorite thing about this camera is the flip out screen. It's silly, but I like how functional it is. It's not just for a YouTuber to like go vlogging by himself, because I hardly ever vlog, and I find that it's really easy that when I'm trying to get a specific shot and I have to like sort of maybe push this in a spot where I can't really get my whole body into, I can sort of twist this screen to see exactly what I need to see at that shot. If I have to be in a weird position, it's really convenient. Twist it like this if I'm shooting a lower shot. Obviously there are a lot of great features to this. I know I don't really understand why any other camera manufacturer doesn't have the flip out screen. It seems silly. I want to be able to see my content whether I'm standing right behind it or maybe to the left of it or above it. I don't understand why people and companies refuse to put the flip out screen. I know Panasonic has even made cameras that don't have this. I don't understand why. It's the most functional, I think, out of all of them, because it can spin from any spot and you can have it any which way. I guess that's just me, but I digress. My next favorite thing about this camera is just how easy it has been to learn to use. I have never had a big boy camera like this before in my entire life, and when I first got it, my videos looked like crap, but I have learned a lot since then, and learning on this has been an absolute dream because it gives you so many great options. The menu is not nearly as great as like Blackmagic or even Canon, I would say, but it's functional and it does exactly what you need it to do. There is a little bit of a learning curve with the camera settings and some things you have to sort of look up to see how you can get them, but you can put zebras on in the menu. You could dive deep into the menu. Just make sure you watch some videos that is not this video that'll teach you how to dive deeper into the menus. I know I had to watch a couple of those. And honestly, I would say the form factor and ease of use is the last thing that I love about this camera. It's wonderful to use. It's not massively big. It's not also tiny, so it fits in the backpack, but then when I pull it out, I have some meat to hold on to. Do I wish it was a little bit bigger? Probably. If that meant maybe a few more features, I wouldn't be mad with it. I don't understand why companies like Sony refuse to make bigger cameras in an effort to maybe cool it better or to add in a couple extra features. Like, it's not a phone. When I'm buying a camera, I don't care how big it is. I mean, as long as it's not massively huge, I don't really mind if it's a little bit bigger than this. I like the body size, but if that meant I could get more stuff, I wouldn't mind if they made it bigger. Sony, make your cameras thicker. I had an A6300 for like a day and I hated it because the 4K was just awful. It was abysmal because it always overheated. I could film for like 2 minutes and then it would overheat. This has never had that problem. This thing's a dream. Now let's talk about the negatives. There are none. Thanks for watching. No, but seriously, there are a couple. I would say the biggest thing is the sensor size and the mount. Micro Four Thirds is fine. It's a capable sensor. It's obviously good enough for me and probably good enough for most people, but there's no real room to grow with these lenses. You won't really buy a much better camera than this camera. So if you were to spend a bunch of money on lenses, I think that would kind of be a waste of money, if in my opinion. I only have this one 12-60 f2.8. This is a $600 lens, and I am so glad I spent the extra money on the lens. The lens is the most important thing. Marry the lenses, date the body. That's the motto that I go by. But I'm worried about buying nicer lenses because this sensor isn't something that I'll probably be shooting with if I upgrade a camera. I'll upgrade into a larger sensor, and what that'll allow me to do is be able to have better low light performance, a little bit better like bokeh effect or whatever, and overall just produce a better image in some cases. And I worry that if I spend a lot of money on Micro Four Thirds lenses, that in the future I'm gonna be kind of bummed because I can't use any of them and I'll have to sell all of them. Whereas my fiance, we bought 2 lenses for her, a 50mm f1.4 and an 85mm f1.8. And she has been able to use those on her Canon camera. And a lot of cameras can sort of use that EF mount lens, whether it's through an adapter like a Metabone Speed Booster, or it's on a Canon camera, or even Blackmagic, you can use EF lenses. And I think even on Red, which is obviously extreme, but just an example, you can use Canon lenses on a lot of stuff, whereas Micro Four Thirds, you can't really upscale this because the glass on the inside is so small, so this wouldn't work on a full frame camera, whereas a full frame camera lens would actually work on here. So when buying lenses, lenses, you really need to think hard about what you're going to be doing in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, because that's a really great way to lose money if you're buying and selling lenses constantly. And I would say the final thing that I don't love about this camera is that it's sort of limiting. So if you wanted to do a little bigger production type thing, this is not really a camera you would probably do it with. You could get away with doing it, but if you were getting paid maybe $4,000, $5,000 to go do a video shoot, this, and you show up with this, it might produce a really good image and a really good quality, but it's just sort of limiting. Like if you come to a big shoot and you come only with this and the client is like, what are you doing? You'll look kind of like a goof, I would say. If they're spending all this money, you kind of want to, I guess, look maybe more professional, as silly as that sounds. It's just sort of limiting. I think that in a few years, I'll probably upgrade from this. It's a great camera for what it is. And if you ever really think about just maxing out, maybe making some home videos that you want to look nice and some nice cinematography, but nothing like over the top crazy where you're making like a full-length documentary or you're doing some more extensive footage, I would say this is a great camera, but just know that it's you're not going to use this camera forever. I love this camera a lot, and I've really learned to love it a lot. But I am worried about maybe in 5 years from now or 2 years from now, my friends and I are trying to maybe film a documentary. It's kind of a joke, but it would be a full-length documentary, and I know I could shoot it on this, but I wonder, like, man, should I upgrade cameras? Should I maybe consider getting a different type of camera for this so that way I can, and it's just something you have to think about. So all in all, it's a great camera. It's awesome. It's the best probably video camera that money can buy today. Maybe you could spend more money and get a better camera, but I think value-wise, this is so great. This and the GH4 are just wonderful cameras, but just make sure you get really nice glass, because if you buy a cheap lens on an expensive camera body, it's gonna look like a cheap camera body, but if you buy nice glass on a cheap body, it'll actually make the body look nicer than it would with a comparable sort of cheaper lens. Just keep those in mind. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you guys are interested a little bit in this camera content. Seems like nobody is, but I'm gonna keep making it because I like cameras a lot. So if you don't like them, sorry, but maybe you'll learn to appreciate them the way I have. All right, thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.